Many years ago, when my sons were younger, they're in college now. When they were younger, we were having an intense family argument. All four of us were involved. I have a fifth child, but she was really young. So the four of us were involved, my husband and my two boys. And it was a really tough experience, a tough moment. And I know as families, we have these moments of kind of relational breakdown. And I remember at the end of the argument, as we were trying to kind of repair things and move into a better place with one another, my son, who's now 20, when he was probably about 7 or 8 when this happened, and he said something like, maybe we just all need to go find another family to belong to. And as a mother, that just broke my heart. And it set me on a journey to finding the thing that could really help him never feel that way again. Really never feel a sense that even in difficulty that we don't belong to one another and that we can't have joy even in the conflict. My name is Monica Maurer, and I am the director of the Center for Transformation Institute, and I'm a licensed therapist and supervisor. At the Center for Transformation Institute, we exist to partner with therapists to help therapists grow in their personal and professional growth. And as therapists, I know there's so many trainings, so many things out there for all of us, and so much wonderful stuff. So everything that I'm saying today in this episode probably isn't brand new information, but the hope is that it would pull together some information and that I could speak it in such a way that it would be beneficial and helpful. I know as therapists, that story that I told at the beginning is not something that is how do I say, isn't something that never happens to us. We definitely as therapists are human as well, and we experience difficulty in our families, our relationships, our marriages, etc. And I think a lot of times when those kinds of things happen to us in our families and when we are in relational conflict, there's also a next level of guilt or shame that we have because we have this expectation for ourselves that we would be able to maneuver through these things better. But I also know that a lot of us didn't have perfect models as children, and I guess nobody has a perfect model, but we didn't have perfect models, and so we come into this field knowing what it looks like to have healthy relationships because we've read about them, but not always have we seen them played out. And then as we're trying to play them out in our families, it's not always pretty or perfect. So this episode is going to be about the tools for building joyful connection in relationships. And in this, we can not only apply that in our own families, whether we're married or single, we have kids or no kids, we all have some type of familial connection or community that we're a part of, and we can learn these skills and tools in such a way that will help us maneuver through these relationships and know what it looks like to have healthy connections so that we can model that, or at least have a brain that knows how to do it, and then our clients can pick up on that from the time that we spend with them and from the things that we're able to talk to them about. So one of the things I'm thinking about most in regard to connecting in relationship is how important it is to identify the type of bond that is occurring in the relationship. And there are two types of bond. We have two-person bonds in life model and 3+ bonds, which we would consider the family bond. So our brain is actually more concerned with the family bond, the 3+ bond. The family bond is like a tribal or communal bond, the type of relationship that is about who are my people and who do I belong to. And a two-person bond is more about what we call like a coupleship bond. And so that happens in marriages and significant relationships and friendships and a mother-daughter, father-son, etc., siblings. So we have these two-person bonds that are really valuable, and they make up the 3-person bond. So that's what makes those types of relationships so important is that we can't have a family bond without the connection that we have with our two-person relationship. So it's really important that the two-person relationships are strong and solid in order that the family bond work well. And I think this is where the breakdown comes often in our families, because oftentimes maybe the parents are closer than they are with the children, or one parent is closer to a child than they are to the other parent. And so the bonds, the two-person bonds, aren't equal. And then it throws the whole system off, where there could be jealousy or hurt feelings, feelings of rejection and disconnection that really impact the ability for that family bond to be as strong as it needs to be. So that's an important thing to kind of identify. And as we continue in this episode and in further episodes, we can talk more about what it means to make sure that each of those bonds is secure. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work because we have different personalities, we have different things that have happened in various relationships and different pain points that need to be repaired. And I love how Dr. Wilder of the Life Model talks about how it's not about not having these moments of relational rupture, these attachment injuries. It's more about, have we done the repair that we need in order to re-engage the attachment in a secure space. And so first tool that we want to look at is just making sure that those 2 and 3 person bonded relationships, those coupleships and those family bonded relationships, are as secure as possible. And secure attachment, as most all of us know, is when somebody is there for me emotionally at least 50% of the time or more. It's not always, but anxious attachment is I never know what I'm going to get from the other person. Avoidant attachment is the person isn't able to connect with me emotionally. And then the ambivalent is when the person is a source of tenderness and terror. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be really deeply hurt, or if the person is going to try to be a tender place for me. So it creates a sense of terror inside of me, and that type of bond is the worst pain that exists in an attachment relationship. So first of all, we want to kind of scan those relationships, and I think a good tool is to just have conversation with the children, with your spouse, and really accept and receive feedback in regard to what are we feeling? Are we feeling connected? Do you feel like I'm safe for you? Do you feel like I can receive feedback and that we can grow together in a strong, secure bond? And if not, we definitely want to use some tools to help repair those things, to have those conversations that need to be had, and move into some of these other tools and resources in order to connect and stay connected so that we grow throughout the lifespan with one another. So when we've established an understanding of whether or not our relationships are bonded and safely secure, then we need to look at, are we able to experience both the rhythms of active and relational joy and quiet? So a healthy bonded relationship is going to be able to be quiet, not talk, just be together. Without anxiety, without shutting down, just resting in one another's presence. And then we would also be able to share joy and laughter and conversation and bond in terms of emotional connection. So we want to have rhythms of that. And in a healthy, securely attached, either 2-person coupleship or 3+ person family bond, we can sit in complete quiet. So that's another skill or tool that can be practiced, just being quiet together. I remember many years ago when I was learning about all this, it was Mother's Day, and there were the 5 of us, and I always get to do what I want to do on Mother's Day. This is the one day, or my birthday and Mother's Day, or the 2 days, I guess, that everybody does what Mom wants to do. So we'll go for a walk, we'll go for a hike, or a bike ride. But this particular Mother's Day, what I wanted to do was lay down like sardines on the bed and just be quiet. And I remember my second son was in junior high during this time, so that was a tall order. That was a big job for him. But we laid in quiet, kind of set the timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and I thought, I just want to practice this being quiet together. Now, years later, one of the walks we took, we did a silent walk, and it was just a really interesting time just to be together in each other's presence and just feel what it feels like to rest. I think about that in terms of couples when we sleep in the same bed at night for years and years, and I know for many couples that's hard because one person snores or later on in life, sometimes couples just don't do that as much. But I think about the fact that for many of us, for years and years, we've been quieting our body in the same bed at night for hours at a time, and our bodies are just syncing up with one another. Our energy systems, the machine of our body is just synchronizing with the other person's, and that is a place where bondedness is happening. In fact, quieting together, Dr. Wilder would say, quieting together is the birthplace of bonding. And so we want to be able to do that in our coupleships and in our families. We want to be able to be quiet, not talk, and just be silent at times. And then other times we want to be able to share and be in a rhythm of activity and connection. I was talking to someone today about just the inability of their partner to be able to go to that, we call it level 4 connection, the type of connection where you talk about your emotions. You do it. We've been talking lately about something called a daily check-in, where I'm able to go to you and say, hey, here's my high of the day, and this is what I feel about it, and here's my low. This is what I'm struggling with. As a point of connection, as a point of just getting into each other's worlds and synchronizing with each other emotionally, physically, mentally, in our soul and our spirit, that kind of thing. It can be a whole body, soul, spirit connection when we share with one another at this level and in this way. So that is one way to be active in our joyful connection. Another way is to tell stories. And there are certain ways the life model talks about telling stories, where we talk about, what happened, what I felt, where I felt it, and what I did. And that when we tell a story in that way, we are actually using our entire right brain. We could call it a 4+ story, because it's going through all 4 levels of the subconscious mind. And in that way, it's helping someone feel more connected and synchronized. And then the joyful connection can be even more than what we expected or thought. And so there's different types of stories. We can do appreciation stories. We can do appreciation stories from the day, or memories, times when I felt connected to God, stories about that. All kinds of different stories. Also return to joy stories, times when I wasn't joyful, but then I was able to get there. That really helps in a family or community, because as we tell these stories and express what we've been feeling in terms of disconnect from a joyful emotion, it actually helps the brains of everyone around us return to joy, or at least understand the pathway back. Our brains can be disconnected from a joyful place, but get back to that joyful place more quickly when we have seen and heard other people model how they have done that. So these are some good tools and tips for how to stay connected in our family units. And as we practice this as therapists in our own families, in our own coupleships, in our own friendships, in our own places of belonging, we will have stronger and better brains so that we can offer more health, more healing, more hope, more of a direction for our clients. And even if we don't self-disclose these things in session, which I know is taboo at some level for us as therapists, even if we don't self-disclose exactly how we're doing it, it's more about having a brain that can do these things, because we know through interpersonal neurobiology that our brain skills are actually being transferred rapidly, even without words. And so there's certain ways of being and experiencing life that when we have grown, when we've matured, we can just transfer those skills just in the interactions that we have with our clients. And I know we all want the best for the clients that we work with, and we want the best for ourselves and our families. So I look forward to talking again very soon.